Hello, podcast listener. This is your host with the most, JJ from JJ Meets World. I want to meet every single person out there, and I want to find out all about your stories. But to be able to do that, well, I might have to take a sleep apnea test. You're going to find out about that in this episode and so much more, including get your oral factories going, because we're going to talk about colognes as well. And I want you to smell along with us. Sit back and enjoy this episode of JJ Meets World. And by the way, if you'd like to help support our podcast, visit jjmeetsworld.com, where you can donate to our Patreon, pick up some killer swag at our merch shop, or click the link to Apple Podcast and give us a 5-star review.
1, 2, 3, 4. J.J. Gordon, sort of like that Indiana Jones, in that he's always sniffing out his next adventure. Yes, he is! He's always interviewing guests so he can have them on his show and they can talk about pop culture, arts, and leisure. J.J. has his flag unfurled and he likes his french fries curled, and he's fun and then he twirled as he goes to meet the world. He will march into the rain even if his ankle sprained. Take a peek inside his brain. This podcast is called J.J. Meets World.
I'm going to send you something right now that I want you to watch while we are on air, okay?
Okay.
This is important. So recently, I have been introduced to how awesome TikTok is.
Oh, boy.
So, yeah, right?
Wow.
And a lot of people say that, but now I'm not someone who's going to spend hours and hours and hours, but what I do is people will send me stuff. And so now I can see it and I can see what's amazing. And I am going to send you a guy named Kyle Gordon is great is his handle. Okay.
Are you sending this to me on TikTok?
No, I'm going to send it to you. This is a share from Instagram. So,
okay.
but he does most of his stuff on TikTok.
Wait. Okay. So are you about to text message me a link, or
yes,
are you
I'm texting you his Instagram, this particular post.
Okay.
And
so it's a TikTok that's been shared to Instagram, which you're texting to me.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know how to use TikTok. I just know how to watch the TikToks.
Okay.
So,
I've pulled it up and it started playing.
Okay. Now, listener of JJ Meets World, this is what he's watching. This guy, Kyle Gordon, does characters, and his characters include one called The Kid No One Likes, and then the adventures this kid had. So it's the kid no one likes comes to dinner. The kid no one likes is at the carpool. And he uses this kind of funny voice, and he always wears the same clothing. He's always talking to Greg, who's his friend, off camera. And it's just this series of little tiny, like, quick clips. And this dude kills me. I have watched these so many times because I've been like, I knew that kid. I knew the kid who says stuff like, Miss DiPietro, I was supposed to have a healthy option for dinner. It is just out of this world wild how much I've enjoyed that. And this is a guy who I've never met Kyle Gordon. I'm never going to meet Kyle Gordon. But last night at about 2:30 in the morning, I was laughing so hard watching the one where he's on a playground that I actually sent him a direct message via Instagram. And I said, hey, man, this stuff is great. I love it. And he sent me back a message today saying, from the kid that no one likes, he says, I'm not supposed to talk to strangers on Instagram Messenger. And I thought that was pretty dang funny.
That's awesome.
So now you've watched it, Tucker.
Yeah.
Could you find yourself getting lost for half an hour in the videos of this kid?
Maybe. Yeah, it was pretty funny. I'm listening to you talk and reading it at the same time, So like I'm not quite in the mode for it, but I love this form of humor. When this was the kind of thing that got me into Vine, when Vine was a thing, where people just were really creative with the format. So I thought you were going to say Kyle Dunnigan, because he was a guy who, does humor on Instagram in much the same way, and not the same way, but he's also doing characters. So no, it seems awesome. I have TikTok. My relationship with TikTok is much different than yours, however, because I follow the Christina Pazsitzky method when it comes to TikTok feed curation, which is effectively, so she tells it better than I'll ever will. Obviously, it's her thing, but if you just go to YouTube, search Christina P TikTok, you'll find what I'm talking about. But she only wants the sort of the the dark side of TikTok. She wants the stuff that kind of takes a piece of your soul a little bit. And so she's not, if she were to come across this guy's feed, she'd be like, oh, this guy's great, but I'm not going to like him on TikTok because I don't want TikTok to give me these types of videos. I want like horny old people who are learning how TikTok works for the first time, or like I want people like showing like I don't even want to get into it really. Just go to Christina P's YouTube and you'll see she lays it out really well. So I followed her methodology, and so I can kind of dive into TikTok maybe once every 2 weeks for about 5 minutes. And then after I've gone through my feed, I've lost a piece of myself and I have to kind of get out of it for
You just have to be done.
Yeah, I just have to be done. I'm like, whew, that one was rough. That one, like, there's a lot of mental illness and drug addiction and pretty dark stuff going on.
That is that's the horror of the internet, right? Is that it can take you to the brightest place. It can also take you to the darkest place. Both things have to coexist on the internet, or it's not the internet, right? You're being slated into something that doesn't actually exist anywhere outside of, let's say, like China, where they're going to make you watch only what they want.
But I also wonder though, where is TikTok in its evolution? Because we're so used to new it apps that are sort of the it app for a bit, and then it gets replaced by something else. And there's a lot of similarity in the functionality of these. You're just sharing video and photo and audio. And so is TikTok at this point, is it passé yet, or is it still the cool thing?
I think it's still the cool thing. But then again, I never figured out Twitter. I never figured out Snapchat. I only barely figured out Instagram because it's just photos. Although I was really frustrated one day when I'm like, why won't it let me put a link under this photo? And then I figured out what link in bio means.
Yeah.
And then TikTok. So to me, this is what is unique to me is this. I am a firm believer in that every person is funny in one way or another. Everyone likes being able to share humor with other people. Getting a laugh is great. Being laughed at is not great, but finding something to laugh at is great. And so TikTok has exploded the ability for all of these people to come out. For example, a TikTok that I watched today that I thought was just hilarious was this first grade teacher explaining that it's 2 days before the end of school. And a kid came up to me and he held the door open for all the rest of his classmates. I said, well, you earned a sticker. So he pulls out the sticker sheet and the kid points at one and he says, nope, you got to use your words. Do you want this duck sticker? And the kid stared at him and then he just pointed again. He goes, no, do you want the duck sticker? And the kid is like shakes his head and he's like, you need to use your words. And he's like, I want the duck sticker. And so he goes, okay. So he takes it. He puts, the kid puts it on his shirt and he's so proud of it. And he goes, there, see, all you had to do is ask. And he's like, yeah, but this is a penguin.
Oh,
right. And so to me, like, I'm sitting here waiting for the punchline. And when I finally get it, I am over the moon about it. So
are you a tired boy, JJ?
I'm going to be truthful. I am a very tired boy. In fact, that's one of the things I want to talk about today. So I'm signing up for a sleep study because my sleep has not been great the last couple of months, which is weird because I'm losing weight.
Okay. And is that like an intentional thing, or is it like, oh, Jesus, I'm losing weight and I'm losing sleep? What's going on?
No, well, I figured like, okay, so if I'm losing weight, usually when I drop 10 pounds, my snoring drastically drops because you've shared a bedroom with me before. I'm king of snoring.
Yep.
And Jill tells me that as I lose weight, I snore less and less and less. And for sure, yeah, right there.
Yeah.
Sorry, listener, if you're like me and when someone yawns, you've got to yawn with. But my sleep has just not been great. And so by 11 o'clock in the morning, now I usually get up at about 5:30. So by 11 o'clock, I am yawning. I'm really like kind of starting to lose it. And so then I got to bolster it with caffeine. Then I'm drinking some pop. And I want to get rid of my dependency on pop as well. So I'm organizing to get into this sleep study. Now, what they are going to find out is, okay, do you need a CPAP machine? I keep yawning.
Yeah, you do.
And coincidentally, yesterday I was with a gentleman who is a salesman for a company that handles CPAP machines. And so I started talking to him and I said, okay, the last time I saw a CPAP machine, it was a giant behemoth of a machine that sat on someone's nightstand table. It was really loud. In fact, I know a couple people who say, my sleep partner can't even sleep in the same room. So now we sleep in separate rooms, or I have to sleep on the couch sitting up.
As you yawn again. Basically, it's going to make you look like Immortant Joe.
Yeah.
Right.
See, and that's my worry too, because I also am on the road, not a ton, but enough where, okay, so I have to lug this machine with me everywhere I go. And this is what the guy told me. He said, listen, you probably saw a CPAP machine from like the mid to late 90s. We have drastically improved that technology. It is much quieter than it used to be. Getting the mask fit is the most important part. So it used to be sort of where they had 4 masks and you used whichever one fit the best. Now they are completely customizable. You keep adding more yawns. But I'm also a little afraid because your sleep is one of the most important things that you can do for your body.
Definitely.
And I know when people don't have a good sleep. Now, that being said, I've also known people who've said, yep, I did my sleep study. I've got sleep apnea. I got my machine. And within 2 weeks, I became a different human being. I was more alert. I was more present. I had, my thought train was better. And so in my mind, I'm thinking, there's more harm, or there's more good than harm with getting this test done and being told definitively you have sleep apnea.
Yeah. I mean, if your daily life is suffering because you're not getting enough sleep, then absolutely the trade-off will be worth it for sure.
And I don't think, like, to me, my day-to-day, it's not like I called you and said, oh man, I can't record because I'm just too tired. I don't think that I lose much, but also I think you don't know what you've got until you're faced with like, oh yeah, you're right, guys. I probably wasn't fun to be around after 9 o'clock at night. Or hey,
are you having like weird dreams or nightmares at all?
I've always had vivid dreams, and I guess they're just as vivid as they've ever been. So I'm not having anything particular. Although I did have I had a horrible nightmare like maybe a week and a half ago. That involved, I had caused a car accident, and it was the court trial where I was being tried.
Ooh.
Yeah, and it was bad. It was really bad. And
was that one of those ones where you wake up and it takes you 30 seconds, but within 30 seconds you feel an absolute elation of, oh my God, none of that was real?
Yeah. It was one of those ones too that not only do I get that elation that it wasn't real, but then later on that day I was watching something and a courtroom was in there, and I kind of instantly felt a panic a little bit because my subconscious hadn't completely written it away at that point.
Right.
So I'm excited to get this sleep study. I'm also nervous because if I find out that this is a machine that I am going to need for the rest of my life. Now, I also found this out. I thought sleep apnea was only because of being overweight. And apparently sleep apnea is just where your throat essentially like kind of collapses on itself and you need to force air in to open the airwaves again. So it's the person who stops breathing and then like kind of chokes themselves awake, but their body is so low on its required sleep that it actually doesn't wake you up necessarily. It's taking you out of your REM cycle and that deep sleep that you really need, but it's not like you're waking up and then blinking and looking around the room and wondering, like, did someone just try and choke me?
So when does this happen?
So a week from today. So we're recording this on a Thursday. So by the time listeners are listening to this, I'll be just a couple days away from it.
So how does the sleep study work then? Like, I mean, is it something where you're just sleeping at home and you're reporting into them, or are you actually
No.
going somewhere?
Oh, now this is where the real nightmare comes, Tucker. So I've talked to 5 people now since yesterday who've all done sleep studies, and they all told me the same thing. The sleep study is awful, but you've got to do it to be able to get the prescription you need, essentially, to get the CPAP machine.
Okay.
So what you do is you go somewhere. You go to the sleep lab, and they're going to hook you up to all of this stuff. They're going to hook you up like with a nasal monitor to see, you know, like how heavy the breathing is coming from there. I imagine you end up looking like Louis Tully in Ghostbusters. You know, all these diodes and whatnot. So then they put you to sleep, and then if you have sleep,
you to sleep.
Well, like you have to fall asleep.
Okay.
And what everyone told me is like this is like you're going there for this sleep study, but you're in a foreign place and you're hooked up to all this stuff, and you know that there's someone behind the glass, and so it doesn't feel like a comfortable place to sleep. So you fall asleep. And then if something happens, they wake you up and they have to take all of these, you know, like, oh, your oxygen sensor and all of these things. So then they want you to go back to sleep again. Then they wake you up again. And then you go back to sleep. And so you get a very unrestful night.
Ugh.
And a lot of people said, you know, if you can tell work you're going to be late and go home and take like a couple hour nap, you know, or if you can get it on a Friday so that Saturday you can really, you know, just sleep in and do what you need to do. So to me, that doesn't sound exciting because I don't like people watching me sleep. It's one of the things in my life where I figure I'm pretty open and I can go with the flow.
You know,
but I don't like people watching me sleep.
I bet most people don't like people watching them sleep, but we just never even think about it. So like, are you saying like even your partner, or is it just a notion that anyone might be there, or have there been people who have watched you sleep?
I think it's because I'm so vulnerable when I'm asleep.
So it's the idea of it.
Yeah. Let me tell you about the worst birthday party I ever went to.
Okay.
So I went to the birthday party of a kid that I thought was my friend, but it turns out he was just actually pretty cruel my entire childhood.
Oh,
so I don't know why. And I think that karma kind of bit him in the butt because years later, I don't think that he's as happy as he thought he was going to be.
You don't have to say him, but do I know him?
No, you do not.
Okay.
That's how deep into my childhood this is. It's somebody totally unrelated. So, so I go to this birthday party, and what he did is his parents rented out 2 hotel rooms at the Holiday Inn so we could swim in the pool. And there was a group of like 8 little boys and I mean, I'm a little boy as well, so don't think it's like a 16-year-old and then little boys.
This is 4 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah, I was in my early 30s and I was attending a 4th grade. So we're all swimming.
Really mean to me,
right?
But he's grown up now, and I don't think he's as happy.
We all go swimming. We all have a great time swimming, and then his dad orders pizza, and that's awesome. And then we're kind of separated. So all the boys go into one hotel room, and then the dad and this kid's younger brother are in the other one. So they're still technically monitoring us, but not really. And then we rented the movie Barbed Wire on the hotel TV. Are you familiar with the movie Barbed Wire?
Yeah.
It's Pamela Anderson in her first starring feature.
I'm familiar with the cover to Barbed Wire, but I've never seen Barbed Wire.
Well, and really, you only want to watch like the first 2 minutes. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge, right? So we're way too young to be watching that. I can tell you that for an absolute fact. But so we're watching that. And then the movie's done, and it's like, okay, so let's all get ready to go to bed. And they tried to put my hand in a glass of warm water to make me pee the bed, like you do, like every camp movie. And I was like, don't do that, you guys. And they're like, no. And they're holding me down and forcing my hand into this water. And so I pull my hand away from the cup and it ends up like spilling all over the birthday kid. So now his jammies are all wet. And he's like, you're so stupid. You're an idiot. And so what this kid did is marched into the other room, and like 2 minutes later, this kid's dad goes, okay, JJ, come with me. These guys want to get to bed and you're making trouble.
Oh,
and
lame.
I'm like, are you freaking kidding me? And so at this point, I don't want to sleep. And so they bring me into this other room, and now I am only using the like outer layer of a hotel, like the bed, the linen that's on top of the bed, which is the most disgusting part of a hotel room, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And one pillow. And the dad's like, he's like, I don't want you messing around. No horseplay in here. Just go to sleep. And I can hear all these other kids in the other room having a great time. And then I hear the opening credits to Barbed Wire, and I'm like, they're watching Barbed Wire again.
Oh.
And I'm like, and I'm getting left out. And so, you know, like right away the next morning, I think it's probably like 6:30. I wake up and I'm like, I would like to call my parents and I would like to get picked up. And he's like, well, we're going to go do some more swimming and, you know, then we're going to have lunch. And I'm like, no, thank you. I do not even want cake.
Yeah.
And so I had my dad come pick me up and he's like, oh, did you have like a, you know, like a bad time last night? And I'm like, yeah, I did. I had the worst time ever. And that's the worst birthday party I've ever attended. Even worse than the time I went to a birthday party and the guy whose birthday it was died like 2 hours before the birthday party.
Whose birthday was that?
This is a guy. I worked with a guy in Chicago at the Second City who unfortunately he was like in his mid 60s, but he had a heart attack. And we were all going out to this bar near Second City for his birthday. And so people had presents and they had a cake. And so as people get there, the organizer is crying and she's like, Stan's dead. He's dead.
Oh my God.
And so we're like, what? And they're like, yeah, he had a heart attack this afternoon. His daughter called me. And so we got together. But I mean, it turned into a pretty awesome wake.
Yeah, but I mean, Jesus.
Yeah, right. So it was a bad birth. That was a bad birthday
party,
but
bad birthday.
But still,
it wasn't
the worst
a birthday.
One.
It literally wasn't a birthday.
No, yeah, it was a death day.
Yeah.
Also,
I'm trying to.
Can you imagine being born and died on the same day?
I can imagine it. It just sounds shitty.
Think so? I think it'd be great because you could probably save some money on the headstone.
No, because there are going to be people on my birthday who get told that I'm dead and they're going to think that they're joking.
Well, don't you think that could happen on any day?
Yeah, but I hope it wouldn't. That'd be a cruel one to pull.
If someone called you tomorrow and they're like, dude, JJ's dead.
I'd be like,
he was doing his sleep study and he bit on one of the like little things and it shocked him and he's dead.
Wait, so what is the scenario that we're playing out here? That someone has called me and what's my reaction to finding out you've died?
Yeah, would you believe it immediately or would you need a secondary person to back it up?
I would believe it immediately because it's not happening on April Fool's Day.
Okay, so if someone told you on April Fool's Day that JJ was dead, it turns out that he was a drug lord.
I want to know real specific, like who is delivering the news and how are they doing it?
Okay, it's being delivered by Greg Carlson, and his knowledge comes from another neighbor.
Ooh, okay, that's okay. If it's from Greg, I don't think it's a joke at all. If I was thinking, is it Rachel Hoffman? Because then it's absolute bullshit. It didn't happen. But
what if it's it's a good friend like Natalie Deutsch LaPlante? Natalie Deutsch LaPlante. I
mean, is it just on any random day or on April Fool's Day?
Any random day. But it's a well, no, it's not any random day. It's Thursday, October 6th.
Yeah, okay, but it's not April Fool's Day.
Right.
I would believe her. I really would. Like, that is such a cruel thing to joke about that my assumption would be, why would Natalie call me out of the blue to lie to me about JJ's death? Like, what would be the point of that?
You know, it's funny, though. I've got at least 3 people in my life that I could probably count off pretty easily who would do a joke, think that would be a funny joke. I don't think it would be funny. Here's the deal. You call me and tell me someone's passed away, I immediately believe you.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course.
Right.
What,
I don't think that there's someone out there who is so petty and so small that they would think it would be funny to joke about the passing of another person, especially someone that I care about.
Well, someone that you know or something. Yeah. I mean, there's no humor to that. So I would immediately, but I could totally see at the same time, like you being like, hey, Natalie, can you call Tucker, but put it on speakerphone? I want to hear what his reaction would be if he found out I died.
So you think that I am that person who would think it's funny?
That's not funny. I think it could be like, I just want to make sure he really loves me.
It'd be like someone would update their social media and be like, hey, if anyone gets a call about JJ dying today, it's not true. I fell for it. And, you know, I've had to make that call in my life to inform people about the passing of like someone in our friend group. And the reactions are all completely different. People react to death in different ways, and I don't think there's a correct way to react to it. But being someone who's been the messenger on so many occasions, it is interesting to see how people cope, so to speak, on a phone. Some people break down immediately, and some people lower their voice and they say, "Yeah, this is horrible." And then there's other people who are like, "Nah, no, nope, you're a liar, nope." So I don't know. To me, I don't think that that's funny. Here's what I think would be funny is Tucker. Some guy just showed up at my house and he says that he's your long lost brother. And his name is Trucker Lucas.
Yeah.
And he drives an 18-wheeler and he looks just like a young Leonardo DiCaprio. He left me his phone number and he wants you to call him. Yeah. And then I've set up like a Google like voice phone number and I'm like, "Hey there, Tucker, it's your long lost brother, Trucker Lucas. That to me would be hilarious.
I think I would fall for that as well. Hook, line, and sinker. That premise doesn't seem outlandish at all.
One of my favorite jokes that I've ever played on somebody that I thought was pretty harmless was Jill and I went shopping for a car. Jill needed to get a new car, and neither of us had ever really had lot experience where you go to a car lot and you talk to a salesman. I'm like, do we try and negotiate a price? I don't know. So this guy's name was Tony, who came out and was helping us. And Tony was pretty nice. I mean, he was a nice guy. He was helping us out. We were having a pretty, easy time. And he's walking us through all this stuff. Now, I've been told that this particular dealership, you got to watch out because they're going to screw you on all this small stuff. And so I was like, I'm not going to get screwed on the small stuff. I'm going to keep my eyes and ears open. So Tony is the guy who makes the sale and gets you like hooked up with this stuff. But then he hands you over to someone from finance. And so I had been asking for an itemized, show me itemized why I'm going to be paying $30,000 for this car.
Right.
And so this woman comes, I'm like, well, and I need to see an itemized. And she's like, I thought this was a done deal. And I stood up and I'm like, you know what, Dorothy, I'm walking away. So we started walking out of the dealership and Tony immediately runs over. And he's like, hey, what's wrong? And I'm like, had a real bad feeling with Dorothy. If I'm going to be spending a good chunk of money, I want to do it with someone that I feel like I want to do business with. So Dorothy, Dorothy made this guy lose his commission essentially. And I said, maybe we'll be back tomorrow. And so that night, Jill is kind of sitting there and she's like, oh God, I really liked that car and I wish we would have just stayed. And maybe, we could have asked for a different finance person. And I'm like, listen, don't worry about it. I know 3 things to be true. Number 1, I love you. Number 2, my mom's onion goop that she made for ham sandwiches is the most disgusting thing on the planet. And 3, there will be plenty of cars to purchase tomorrow, just like there were today. So my little joke here is I took Jill's phone and I took my name out of it. So I took my contact out of her phone. And then I texted her, and the first text was, hey, it's Tony. And then the second text a couple minutes later is, are you mad at me? And she, I saw her read it, and then I saw her read the second one, and she kind of darted over and looked at me, and she's like, I said, what's going on? She's like, I think the guy from the car lot is texting me. And I'm like, oh, really? What's he saying? She's like, he wants to know if I'm mad at him. And I'm like, well, yeah, tell him you're mad at him. And she's like, no, I'm just not going to respond. I'm not going to respond. And so then I'm like, I got to take this a little further. So the next thing I said is, I got your address off the paperwork. Could I stop by? And so now at this point, she's like, we got to turn off all the lights. That guy's coming over. That crazy man is coming over to our house. And so then I sent a picture I had taken of our house a couple days before. And I'm like, is this your house? And finally she's like, what? And I'm like, Jill, it's me. And she was very angry. very, very angry. So from time to time, I will still send a text from Tony and be like, "Hey, it's Tony. Are you at the fair right now?"
That's pretty good.
Yeah, I thought that was a pretty good, like a harmless prank, right?
I'm surprised how far you amped it up.
Well, it was a winter night, and I didn't work, like it was like over a break, like holiday break, and so I had tons of time on my hand.
You're lucky she didn't just straight up call 911.
Right, like if she had stepped to the other room and she's like, "Well, I called the cops so that the stalker." Oh no, 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 no! That's how those things get out of hand.
Or if she had been like, Tony, I felt a real connection with you. I'm glad you've reached out.
Right. I mean,
starts texting with Tony and you're not sure if she knows it's you or not.
Yeah, joke would have been on me, right? Like I would have been like, wah, 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 wah. So that was my fun little joke that I did that I enjoyed on
funny.
Jill. Yeah. You got to keep the marriage spicy in some way, right?
Is that how you do it?
Yeah, through pranks. You know it.
Mm-hmm.
Jill and I have this situation where I call it Frankensteining. Okay. It's where Jill will take things too far and then cause a reaction out of me that is not within the parameters of the situation we're in.
Gotcha.
So, for example, let's say that Jill is tickling me, okay? So, like, I tickle Jill, she tickles me, I tickle her, and then we're done. And then I'm taking a drink of water, and then she tickles me, and then I end up with water all over my pajamas. Then I will turn around and I will tickle her until she's like gasping for breath.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's no fun, right? Because then she's like, stop it. And I think I did this as a little kid too, where I just didn't know when to say when. One of my favorite jokes to play on previous guest Britta Nelson is this. When we're in a hotel together, see if you ever notice this. A hotel, the door to the bathroom is never really tight along the floor. It's actually got a pretty good gap.
I mean, that's actually a lot of hotel doors in general, but definitely the bathroom, yeah.
And so I will gauge and look at the hotel bathroom, and a lot of times they put the toilet facing the door, right? You walk in, sink to the right, toilet in the middle, shower on the left. And so if you're sitting on the porcelain throne, you are actually looking directly towards the door. So what I will do is I will fill a glass with water and I will wait until I know that she is seated. And then I will throw the water under the gap in the door frame and soak her feet.
That's the fucking worst. You're not just going to be soaking her feet, but like if her pants are down around her ankles.
Right. Not only that, she now also has to leave a bathroom and explain to everyone why there's water everywhere.
That's huge.
I mean, I think it's because I'm an older brother, right? Like, you're an older brother. Doesn't your brain just automatically click into like, oh, how can I make this person's life just a little bit more miserable? Remind them that I'm still the alpha.
Oh, alpha, sure. I mean, I did play pranks on my little sister when we were growing up, but nothing super clever. And the only one that really sticks out in my mind was I'd sneak, like while she was asleep. She was a really heavy sleeper. She could sleep through anything. And so I'd go and I'd put like toothpaste on her forehead while she was asleep. But then one time I did it and I put a lot on her forehead, like a massive gob of toothpaste. And when she woke up in the morning, she put her hand in it and ran it back through her hair and put a bunch of toothpaste in her hair. And I got in deep shit because of that. So I kind of stopped after that. It just stopped being fun.
It just was no longer the thing that you're like, yeah, I'm already into this.
Yeah. And I mean, I had, until I had step siblings, I didn't have older siblings who were around enough to play pranks on me. And my parents really weren't that into playing pranks on me on April Fool's Day either. It pretty much was just the relighting candles.
Okay, so my sister, who put up with a lot. I mean, Christy Gordon had to put up a lot with me. I remember the cruelest thing I ever did is I took a bottle of vinegar and I mixed it with Kool-Aid
No.
And I poured myself a glass of actual Kool-Aid, and then I poured her glass from this, and I'm like, hey, let's have a chugging contest. And so, like, we made this big thing, and I'm like, like, oh, we both have to have ice. It's got to be cold. And so on the count of 3, 1, 2, 3. And so, like, I take it up and I start chugging, and she gets one giant gulp. And she immediately I actually, even just saying it out loud, I feel pretty bad about that.
JJ, it sounds like you've got a lot of karma coming towards you.
Yeah, I mean, I think I've pretty much paid for all this at this point in my life. Yeah. I just told you I've got sleep apnea, whereas my sister sleeps like a baby every night, I'm sure. Also, I told you about the worst birthday party I ever went to. I think I even paid for it as a little kid.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and yeah, you've paid for it in a lot of different ways.
Do you believe in karma? Do you think karma's a thing?
No, not specifically, but I mean, at the same time, I think there's something to the effect of thinking of, as far as like the empathy of it, like it sort of seems like it's there as an idea to force people to think about, well, would you like this to happen to you? Right? Do you want this to happen to you? And so it would be nice if karma was a thing, because that's a system you could game, but I don't think so. That being said, if karma was a thing, I, like many of us, would definitely be in trouble.
I am a huge fan of believing that what you put out into the world, you get back. So not necessarily karma where like your actions have an equal reaction later on, but I do feel like if you go out there and you actively try and help people, when you need help, it'll present itself to you, because mainly people want to pay you back for what you've done for them. If you go out there and you genuinely ask someone how their day is, they're going to genuinely ask you how your day is. And so I don't think if I go out there and I rob a store, somebody's going to rob me. But I do think that I think that's part of the personality tree, is your personality paves the way for how others treat you. So if you like, do you ever think to yourself, I am a slightly different person when I am outside of my direct influence group, the people who know me? Maybe when you're on a vacation or...
I mean, I think I'm a different person, even with different people in my circle of influence. I think we're all kind of different versions of ourselves with different people. So for sure.
Oh, I am the type of person who, when somebody's talking to me, I start to flow into like their cadence. I start to, like get with what's going on. Previous guest Jason Jacobson and I just the other day had this really exciting conversation where we were both getting amped up, talking to each other about something that is absolutely ridiculous, about buying hot dog carts. And so we're both like to the point of where I can't stand still. I am literally like trying to jump out of my skin. I'm getting so excited. And I think Jason fed off that excitement. And then I fed off of Jason feeding off of that excitement, and back and forth. Or if I get with somebody who's like really kind of like down, who's low key, I'll try and kind of match their low keyness. I will even find myself going into different dialects. Like if I meet someone from the South, sure, like I start, talking a little bit more like I'm from the South.
Yeah.
So don't ever put me into a place where it's like, oh, it's a serial killer's convention.
Yeah. How do you change yourself for me, JJ?
Actually, you're one of the people I feel completely and totally like. Actually, let me put it like this. I so often I feel like I have to be on. Does that make sense?
Right.
So I need to be this person that everyone's built themselves up that I am, where I'm happy-go-lucky all the time. I'll be honest, the other night I was having a very down night. I was just feeling down. It was too hot out for me. And Jill was very concerned. She's like, you're not cracking any jokes. You're not your usual self. Is everything all right? And I'm like, I can't. I don't have it in me right now to do these things. And she's like, yep, okay. Let's just, hang out. Let's get out of this social situation, and we'll go home and watch Peaky Blinders on Netflix. And so that was really great. And I feel like you're the other type of person. I've mentioned this on the podcast before, but one of the most thought-provoking, philosophically amazing things that you've ever said to me is when we were on a long road trip, there was a period of like 15 minutes where neither of us said anything. And I'm like, whoa, can you believe that? Like 15 minutes went by and we didn't, say anything to each other. And you said, that's because we're comfortable together.
Mm-hmm.
And that blew my mind because we were comfortable with each other.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm an individual who needs to fill silences. It's tough for me when there is silence. And so, like even like as I'm speaking right now, I understand I'm probably speaking a lot faster than most people would in an average conversation. And it's because, gosh, I don't want any silences. People already heard me yawn a bunch in this podcast. Oh my God.
And that's the kind of stuff that I live for. Not that I'm saying I want silence, but I try to lean in more to trying to get myself as comfortable. I want to get to a point. Actually, it's been a goal of mine where at the very least, how I interact with people becomes more and more similar. Obviously, it's never going to be exactly the same, but like I want to, if I'm having to change myself too drastically too many times throughout the day, then I kind of feel like I'm getting away from whoever my true quote unquote true self is supposed to be. And so one of the things I try to remind myself of when I'm in conversation with people is we've got time, and let's rev it down a little bit if we can. But that being said, that's also why I don't host a podcast, is because I don't, like there are things that require having that ability to routinely get into that space, whether you feel like it or not, right? That's basically what it is to be an improv performer. That was why I never pursued improv, because I was like, improv is great. It's a brilliant art form, but I just don't think I have it in me to force myself to do this when I don't want to, because even when I want to do it, it's tough to force me to do it. Right.
I've always wondered why you didn't get into improv, because you're a great improviser. I've seen you improv and you're wonderful at it. But what you just said there, Tucker, makes so much sense. And so I am sorry if I've ever asked you to improvise and tried to force you into that situation.
No, you've never tried to force me into it. It's really just the the anxiety leading up to it was just one that I never enjoyed. And and imagining the amount of energy you're about to put out also is kind of draining to me, ahead of time. But like when I was in high school and I would do improv, when you're on stage in the moment, you're just alive. But there was no way I could. Not only did I know there's no way I want to make performing an improv part of my regular thing, but I don't even think I could bring myself to have the energy to rehearse improv in private with friends, right, on a regular basis. I think it would be tough for me to motivate myself to the energy level to do that kind of work too.
Can I tell you a thought? Well, I'm going to tell you a thought, so I'm not even going to give you the option.
Yeah, you don't have to. I'm not going to say, no, I'd prefer you didn't, JJ.
And I have to go like, oh, okay. Silence is unnatural. So hear this hot take on this, okay? Nature is full of sound. So whether it's the wind blowing through the trees, and so you hear the rustling of the leaves, the sound of a cicada chirping, if you are out in nature, I think it's very rare that it is silent. I think silence is an invention of man. So think about it. Where are the quietest places that you experience? Probably in some sort of a dwelling, some kind of a man-made structure. We've even found out that as we've tried to create a room that is so soundproof, people go insane from actually hearing the beating of their heart. Your body is making noise at all times. Silence is unnatural.
Silence itself may be nearly impossible, actually, but I think not speaking is sort of is kind of what we're talking about more or less than anything else, right? Like engaging, having to engage in communication via talking with the other person versus just not speaking, so that you can take in, because like when you're talking to someone, you're taking in all the sounds around you plus what they're saying. So you're like devoting extra, mental resources to doing it. And also, the natural sounds in the middle of a baboon fight are going to be different than the ones I'm going to hear when I'm at the end of the dock at the lake. And like for me, when I say silence, I'm not talking about no sound. I'm talking about not having to engage in speech. But like at home here, even right now, I always have noise going. There's certain types of white noise that really helps me relax and concentrate because I'm so just sort of like overly sensitive to all the inputs I get all the time that I
Yeah.
need I need to kind of like smooth it out a bit. And so I always have a fan going all day long, no matter what. Doesn't matter what the temperature is. If it's too cold, I'll just not aim it at me, but I'll have a fan going. And then at night, I've been listening to, I pretty routinely now listen to the sound of rainfall just
Yeah.
playing off my computer, which I think it's going to be interesting because like that's been a point of contention for me in the past too, because when you're, this when you're finding like a new partner or a life partner and you're trying to figure out all the compatibilities you have, even like, are we able to just fall asleep with each other in a compatible way is a huge part of that.
Mm-hmm.
And so I found that I've got some very specific conditions that I really need to have, but I also am typically a fairly restless sleeper. And I don't know if I'd be able to do a sleep study because I almost never can sleep on my back. They would have to sedate me.
I know. So I can't sleep on my back. I am a side sleeper 110%. And so for me, I think that that'll be probably something that's difficult, but it's not something I can't overcome. Outside of a traditional bed, is there a place that you like to sleep? Like, and hear me out. Like, for example, I know people who love to sleep in cars. They think that sleeping in cars is the best sleep they're going to have.
No, when it comes to sleep, I'm a little princess. I really am. I need it to be normal bed. I can fall asleep. You can get to a point of exhaustion where you can fall asleep anywhere, but I've never, not once, felt rested from falling asleep in like a moving vehicle. I've almost never fallen asleep in an airplane. And even when I'm in like a hotel room, unless I'm really exhausted, falling asleep is going to be tough just because I'm in a different place. And typically, it's sort of a crapshoot on whether or not the beds are going to be set to your standard. I mean, and even for me, I've got like certain pillow thicknesses that I need to work with, that kind of like keep my head at a certain angle, which is why when I travel, I typically travel with some of my own sleeping gear just because I don't want to deal with the crap the hotel has.
What about like, can you sleep with a tent or like in a tent?
Yeah, I can, but it's unless the thing I'm sleeping on is really like I can spread out on it and sink into it and is comfy. It's not going to be good sleep. I mean, I could fall asleep in a tent for sure. I have.
So a tent, another place that I just can't sleep. It just doesn't float my boat.
You feel too exposed? Feel way too exposed?
No, it's not even that. And like, it's not a fear of bears either. I'll throw that out there. What it is,
think of like the things that we typically sleep on though in a tent. You sleep on like an air mattress, those are never comfortable, or you sleep on some like shitty foam that's barely even good for yoga, and the ground itself is not going to be comfortable. And so I think you would really need to. I really would love to find like a bedding setup that was really comfortable wherever you set it down, no matter where. That would be awesome. But I've never found that before.
Maybe what you need ultimately is some kind of like sleep Sherpa, someone who can guide you through like the sleeping process and the different opportunities you have to sleep on different surfaces and whatnot. Right. So one place I know that I absolutely get amazing sleep is I love to be in a hammock.
Okay.
And I don't sleep long periods, right? But I will take a 30-40 minute nap in a hammock and feel like $1,000,000. Maybe it's the swing. Maybe if they built a rocking like crib for a man my size, that's really what my body is seeking out.
Hey, I mean, a hammock would be perfect as long as the weather is also right.
Correct. Because there's nothing worse than a raindrop falling on you while you're on a hammock. In fact, so I just had a contractor come to my house because we're going to have a deck be built in the backyard. And I decided that my time and talent are worth more than my treasure. And so I'm going to give this guy my treasure so that I can enjoy my time more. But when I was a kid at our lake cabin, we had these hammock chairs in the screened in porch, and it's like a hammock, only it's like chair formed. And so I said, listen, I want to put in some beams that can support weight so that we can include this. And the guy's like, yeah, I suppose you could do that. And I'm like, I'm not saying suppose. I mean, like, this is something I want to include on there. If I'm going to build this new deck, one of the aspects is I'd like to be able to put these things on there. And he's like, yeah, but don't you find that like no one ever actually really sits in those? And I'm like, no, sir, I don't know what kind of awful like background you come from where people don't have fun, but this is going to be glorious. People are going to be like, is that a hammock chair? And I'm like, let's get in them. Let's do this thing right now. I also want to throw this out there just real quick. I love watermelon. I think it is just an absolutely amazing summertime treat. And the way I do my watermelon is I open the whole thing up. I cut it into like little chunks, little squares. I put it in a metal bowl and I put it in the fridge. And then it's just sweet and cold and juicy. And it's a great thing to have. And we've been undergoing a heat wave right now at the time of this recording. And
I'm pretty sure I recently saw you had posted on social media like a watermelon breakfast or something with some Diet Coke. How'd that go?
Oh, it was so good. It was the best snack. It was, well, and so because it's been so hot, this is another thing too. I live in the house that my grandfather built, and then my mother took over from him, and I took over from my mother. The problem with this house is when they put the air conditioner in, they put an air conditioner that's appropriate for this size of house. I want an air conditioner that's appropriate for a house of 3 times this size so that I can actually turn, like, here's the problem. So I have to turn the air conditioner down to like 65 degrees to be able to get the house to cool down. Now, before you get on my case and say, well, are you shutting the shades in every room? And are you closing all the dampers? Are you making sure the airflow?
I hope you're not warning me, because I would not get on your case.
I know
this.
You wouldn't. I'm talking about the listener who's going to write me a nasty email or something like that afterwards. And I'll tell you right off the bat, Brenda, I don't appreciate you sending me these mean messages so much. So I wish I had an air conditioner that was like beefier than the house it is, so that I can tell it like, listen, I want this whole house to be 70 degrees so I can walk out of 100 degrees and be like, yep, that's 30 degrees cooler.
You got to think that there's some kind of, if it doesn't exist already, but there's got to be some kind of a way so that you could also program your air conditioner to have certain smells that you would really like to have permeate the house.
It's funny you say that.
If you're like, I want this place to smell like cookies, but I don't got any cookies I'm on a diet, so I can't make any cookies to make it smell like that.
So
and then you just push a button on the air conditioning unit itself.
Tucker, you have experienced this a lot in your previous careers because
in casinos.
Yeah, exactly. So casinos have these HVAC systems that pump in specific smells. And so when I was doing marketing for a restaurant in Fargo, one of the things is someone came and they're like, I'd like to talk to you about customized scent for your business. And I'm like, that is ridiculous. And they're like, well, with a couple tweaks to your existing system, we could come up with a signature scent so that whenever someone smells something that's one of these 3 things that go into your signature scent, they're going to associate it with your business. So I thought this was hooey. And then I watched a TED Talk talking about how your sense of smell is so linked to your memory. And I started doing some research, and I realized that smell is an important aspect of any business. And so I think it's probably a burgeoning thing where more and more people are going out there and they're putting in these custom scent machines. If you and which, as a guy who loves cologne, I totally understand, because scent is important. I've been told by 3 coworkers lately that they enjoy walking behind me in the hall. And that's probably the greatest compliment I've received in a while.
Hey, what's your this is going to sound silly for a 36-year-old to be asking this, but because I haven't put on cologne since high school, and I know I was doing it wrong then. So, I've just never thought, "Oh, I should go get," I wear deodorant and I stay clean so I don't smell like shit, but if I were to try to get into the cologne game again at some point, which I don't think I'm really knocking on the door of that right now, but if I do, what's the correct way to apply cologne so that you don't get the obnoxious, oh my God, this guy's super oversauced himself?
Sure. Here's what I do. It's 2 squirts into the palm of my left hand. I slap my hands together, and then I slap on both sides of my neck, and then on each arm with the opposite hand, and then I pat down my front and I pat my shoulders.
Okay.
So to me, overdoing it with cologne is a cardinal sin. And the people who smell so thickly of like Axe body spray or something like that, no, thank you. That's not the way it is. And if you're using like 10 pumps and walking into the mist, all you're doing is really putting that into your carpet. And a lot of times colognes are comprised of oils and different chemicals. So why would you want to do that? The only downside I will say about the JJ Gordon method of applying cologne is if I go and eat something in the next like 5 or 10 minutes after applying cologne, there is a chance I will end up tasting a little bit of the bitterness of my cologne.
Why? Why?
Because there's just some residual on my hands,
Oh.
So like if I eat a banana, let's say, I will be bringing that banana to my mouth and I will smell an instant like a lot of my cologne because it's on my hands.
So the thing is you're like the only guy I know that routinely wears cologne, but you also smell good. And I like, I can tell when JJ's been somewhere because I can smell your scent, but I couldn't describe the JJ smell at all. I just couldn't put it into words. But if I smell it, I'm like, oh, that's JJ. I can tell.
I just got a new cologne. In fact, I paid like $80 for a bottle of cologne, but it's a cologne designed by Anthony Hopkins.
What?
Yeah, it is you go to anthonyhopkins.com and he has a foundation, and the foundation makes money by selling this cologne that he's designed, which is what I assume Anthony Hopkins smells like, and then a series of candles.
Okay.
I'm not overly impressed with the scent. I think it smells a little too perfumey versus cologne-y.
Got it. Yeah, I don't even know what I would want in a cologne, right? Like I don't even know. This is totally alien to me, is going into that world. I wear Old Spice deodorant.
What flavor?
With flavor?
Yeah, like what scent of deodorant?
Oh, I thought you said with flavor. I was like, yes, tandoori chicken. No, what's it called? Fresh?
Okay.
Or Sport or something. I don't know. It's
these
blue.
Are drastically different if you're telling me you wear Fresh or Sport. How deep is the blue on your deodorant bottle?
Pretty deep.
Then it's Fresh.
I think it's Fresh.
You're listening.
It's fresh.
It's Fresh.
And the only reason I really wear that is because when I was going into puberty as a teenager, and I was like, oh, I guess I got to start wearing deodorant. What does my grandpa use? He uses Old Spice because I saw it once and said, okay, I guess that's what I'm getting. I don't know why that was why I decided it that way. But
have you ever smelled the Old Spice like cologne that they have? It came in a very signature bottle.
If I did, I couldn't tell you. I mean, I haven't smelled any colognes.
Well, Tucker, I can tell you this much. I don't think of you as a smelly person. Like you said, you're kind of like a net zero when it comes to scent.
Well, that's what I'm kind of going for, right? Yeah, it smells like this guy is clean, but he's not trying to impress me, right? So you gotta train the sweat. You gotta cover your pits, and you gotta shower every day. And I do those things, but I mean, I'm not against using cologne. I think cologne would be like another step up, but that's also something that I'm aware you can really get that wrong. But also, if you're on the search for a life partner, as I am, you're also worried about, oh, what if this person doesn't like cologne? At the very least, if you're not wearing cologne and you just smell clean, then you're not going to offend them. You know at least that much, right? If someone's like, "Oh, I like the smell of cologne," but they're not going to be offended by you not having any on, they will be offended if you smell like ass.
Let me do something for you, Tucker, as a gift. As a Christmas gift.
Okay.
My favorite cologne that I have is from a website that custom designs a cologne for you based off of a questionnaire you answer.
Oh, okay.
I received 2 colognes. One is called Work and one is called Play. And and I love both of these. They are both phenomenal colognes.
I love that. Work and Play by JJ.
Mm-hmm. And so what I'd like is I would like to sit you down and I will ask you the questions. I'm not going to let you take the survey yourself. I'm going to ask you the questions.
Should we do that on this podcast?
Yeah, I think we should. In a future podcast episode, you'll enjoy. And then when they arrive, I want to know what you think. And who knows, you may end up becoming a cologner just like me.
Oh yeah, I just need. When at first I was afraid that you were about to say, "I'm going to give you some of this cologne that I love," and I was going to say, "JJ, I can't smell like you."
Right?
Like no, don't. But I really like what you've offered. I appreciate that. I'd love to do that.
There's a website I go to every now and then where they take the formulas of old colognes, and so if there's a cologne that you love that's been discontinued, they'll hook you up with it, but at a very expensive price. The first cologne I remember wearing consistently was Candies for Men. And you would find it like in the junior boys department at like a JCPenney. But the scent on it was just amazing. And the bottle was this kind of blue, teal, and green that was see-through glass. I loved that bottle. And if I get a hold of a bottle of Candies cologne today, I think, oh my God, I would pop that on and like a puka shell necklace and listen to some ska. I mean, things would just really come around for me for what I need. But
my sister used to be really into this perfume by like Britney Spears as like well into adulthood and well past the popularity of Britney Spears, but they kept making this perfume and literally for like 4 or 5 years in a row, I'd be like, "What do you want for your birthday?" And she'd be like, "Another bottle of that perfume." And I'd have to go to fucking Gordman's. So once a year for like 5 years, I'd make a pilgrimage to Gordman's to ask them, "Do you have any more Britney Spears perfume?"
And they're like, "No, we're a vaccination center now. Leave us alone." Tucker, this has been one of, I think, my more interesting episodes with you. We've covered a lot of ground, everything from sleep apnea to Britney Spears brand perfume. Who knew where we'd be there? I do want to throw this one out to the listeners of JJ Meets World. If you've been listening to the last couple episodes, we are going to be launching some new episodes and some show stuff coming up. So make sure you stay tuned. And a previous guest has been asking me quite a bit about whether or not that if I ever want to like take an episode off and they could guest host this show. And I said, well, I don't think that's going to happen, but I think it'd be interesting if Tucker, you and I were interviewed by somebody else.
That's cool.
We've done an episode where I interview you, an episode where you interview me, but I think it'd be fun if somebody else interviewed the two of us now that we've almost done 250 episodes of this show. And we're so comfortable with each other, we can just let silences go. That's going to wrap it up for today's show. If you enjoyed this episode and would like to help us continue to produce new episodes each week, visit jjmeetsworld.com, where you can donate to our Patreon, pick up some swag at the merch shop, or follow our link to Apple Podcasts and leave us a 5-star review. You can also follow us on social media. We're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, all the sites the cool kids are using these days. JJ Meets World is produced every week by Tucker Lucas. You can find out more about Tucker's work by visiting moonbasemaria.com. If you want to get in touch with your host with the most, check out linebenders.com, where you can find direct contact info for JJ or booking information. If there was one celebrity that endorsed a cologne that I absolutely would not buy, it would be Jack Black. I don't know what it smells like, but it's not good.